If you want to talk about a clutch play, this is the definition of a clutch play. It's a key situation, a minute left, third down and one, inside the red zone. Raiders need a touchdown here, otherwise it's all over, they're going to lose. And take a look at how this play is going to work. What they're going to do is have their two guards just both block the two interior linemen that the Chargers have right there. And then they're also going to have their center double team one of the interior linemen, but then move up to block a linebacker. So again, this is just a play to try to get 1 yard. You're probably not going to get a touchdown on this play, at least the way you draw it up. It's not built for a touchdown. It's built to get a yard, but it can be a great way to get 1 yard, especially with a fullback blocking in front of Jacobs. And after the ball snapped, it works out perfectly. I mean, as you see, he gets past the first down marker pretty much untouched. It was just a well-blocked play. But at this point, you would typically expect him to get tackled. I mean, there are two Chargers closer to him on the bottom half of the screen, both of which could make a tackle if he tries to break in that direction, and there's also a safety who's deep. So the safety who's crashing in can definitely run in to try to make this tackle, and then the two Chargers, on the bottom half of the screen can also lunge over to potentially make a tackle. So for Jacobs, the way to gain the most yards is probably to run a little bit, basically just straight forward, and then try to run to the bottom half of the screen as much as possible. See if you can get around the safety, but more likely just, try to gain another 5 to 7 yards and then get tackled. However, watch this just breakout speed he's going to have right here. In those couple of steps, he runs the perfect angle and he runs quick enough that he's able to get by both of the Chargers who could have potentially made a tackle, and he gets into the end zone for what ended up being the game-winning touchdown. If that's not clutch, then I don't know what is. I mean, that's a highlight reel level play in its own right, but then to do it in that situation, I mean, this kid is special. I've been saying it all along, and I picked this guy to end up being the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and that's why through the first half of 2019, I'm going to give him the first half Rookie of the Year award. My two other candidates were Kyler Murray and Titus Howard, although I did also consider putting Gardner Minshew and also DK Metcalf in there, but the main guy who you have to talk about is Josh Jacobs. He's just been playing at an elite level since he joined the league. I mean, the numbers alone speak for themselves. In 9 games, he has 811 yards, averaging 4.8 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns. I mean, those are great numbers just by themselves, and he's currently on pace for 1,400 yards this season, which is definitely very impressive. So at this point, he is currently 6th in rushing yards per game, and he's actually tied for 4th in touchdowns. So that's kind of why he is the Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, so far through this season, because he's not just competing with the top rookies, he's competing just with the top guys of his position. And while the stats are definitely impressive, I almost feel like the tape is even more impressive. Like, I feel like his vision is something that really I underrated coming into this season. I didn't really talk too much about his vision. I think I might have mentioned a thing or two, but I certainly wasn't thinking about his vision being a key attribute the whole time, but his vision has been outstanding here in the NFL level. Like on this play, the way it's going to work is that there's going to be all one-on-one matchups on the left side of the screen. So that's the first thing you're going to want to notice. And after the ball is snapped, one thing you kind of see what's going on right there is that it's an okay block going on. And so Oakland's fullback, his idea is he's going to just block him out of the way. And then for Jacobs, he can simply just follow him, get in between that gap, and gain some yards that way. That's kind of his mindset here. More often than not, as a halfback, your job in a play like this is to just follow the fullback. That's what you should do. But that wouldn't actually be a great situation because of what's going to happen right after that. Basically, what's happening is Devin Kennard is doing a great job of pulling over to the right side of the screen and just basically clogging that lane up. He's accepting the fact that he's probably not going to make a tackle, but he's also accepting the fact that Jacobs will not be able to run through this situation. His hope is kind of just that Jacobs runs into him at this point, which isn't a terrible idea because, I mean, for Jacobs, this is a still image, but he has basically no time to read what's going on and try to get to the outside, but he's going to be aware enough to do it anyways. I mean, look at that. That's so tough to do in real time, to realize what's going on and change direction just like that. It is not easy to do, but the fact that he was able to do it meant the difference in a rush for no gain or a very good rush. This plays another great example of it, where what's going to happen for Oakland is they're going to have a tight end just block the line on the edge right over there, and then what they're going to do is they're actually going to pull their left guard over to block that Detroit player, and then their fullback can lead block in between the gap that they hopefully create, as there will be a linebacker, Jelani Tavai, who's going to run up and try to clog up that gap, but with a fullback running through, he can push him out of the way, and then Jacobs can, hopefully if this play works out perfectly, run into the end zone untouched. However, the if in that sentence is going to end up being key, because if you notice, look at what Trey Flowers does right there and how he just owns his one-on-one matchup. Oftentimes having a tight end against Trey Flowers isn't a great situation, and so now Oakland is in trouble, because now what I wanted their fullback to run up and block the linebacker who's in the end zone, he can't really do that. Now he has to take out Trey Flowers, or this will be a tackle for a loss. And so for Jacobs, I think a lot of guys in this situation would just try to, hope that you can just put your head down and just beat the linebacker and get into the end zone that way. But Jacobs has other ideas. He's going to bounce to the outside, and he's going to get into the end zone that way. Again, just an aware play, realizing what's going on, realizing what your talent level is and what you can get away with, and he knew he could get away with that, and so that's what he did. We already know about his speed, about his acceleration, and just about his physicality, and he's one of those guys where there's no fault in his game, there really isn't, but the fact that he's also a smart player really does just put him on a whole nother level. And it's not just those big plays, it's not the touchdowns or the 10-plus yard gains, sometimes it's the smaller plays that also really do matter in the course of a football game. Like on this one, first things first, on the right side of the offensive line, it's just going to be all one-on-one matchups. Meaning that for those two Detroit players right there, they're going to be left completely unblocked on this play. So for Jacobs, he's going to try to run to the right side of the screen, basically just until a linebacker tackles him. That's the way this play is going to work. And so after the ball is snapped, one thing you will notice is that a Detroit linebacker did do a very good job in pursuit of Jacobs here, of just crashing through and trying to make a tackle. But Jacobs is so fast and he accelerates so quickly. Watch how he just completely runs right by him, and it's not until the second linebacker comes over where he gets brought down. That was only a 4-yard rush, but the reality is for a lot of slower guys, that would have ended up being a 2-yard loss. And I don't have to tell you guys, that 6-yard difference is a huge thing, especially with a team like the Oakland Raiders and the way that they run their offense. I do think that having a guy like Josh Jacobs is a huge reason why we have seen Oakland have so much more success this season and why they've already won more games this season than they had last season. He's far from the only reason. They've done a lot of things really well, and I do feel a little bit vindicated in a sense that I felt like I was the only person defending the moves the Raiders were making along the way. I like the Khalil Mack trade from the Raiders' perspective, not to toot my own horn too much, but it was frustrating seeing seemingly every show just make fun of John Gruden when I thought he was actually making some pretty smart moves, and it is cool to see them actually, pan out. Sometimes decisions actually make more sense than you realize, and to me, this is one of those times. I think that really all the moves they made to rebuild, try to be a better team, it's really working out. Their schedule is pretty weak. They can definitely make the playoffs this year, potentially. I do think that they've played this rebuilding process incredibly well. I think the idea of trading away some of your good players, getting draft picks back is a smart idea because they've now turned themselves into already a playoff contending team, especially with the fact that their schedule gets a lot weaker in the second half of it. And not just that, but they still have Chicago's first round pick next year, so they're definitely looking in good shape. But going back to Jacobs, one more thing I do like about him is what he can do in the receiving game. And he's not necessarily one of those guys like Alvin Kamara, that can actually go out wide and be a straight-up receiver. He's not really great like that. Le'Veon Bell's another one where they kind of just run routes as though they're receivers. That's not really how they use Josh Jacobs. However, in terms of being a receiving back out of the backfield, he can be great. And this one's a great example of that, where he's going to the bottom half of the screen, and it's going to be zone coverage here. It's actually a cover 3 blitz. And while oftentimes you like to throw it to a halfback if it's man coverage, because then typically it'd be a halfback going up against a linebacker, and oftentimes you like those odds if you're on offense. But zone coverage can actually still be very effective to throw the ball to your halfback against. Basically what you're relying on is your halfback to make a move and make somebody miss. Like watch, on this play, Carr's going to hit his halfback, and watch how Jacobs just makes one man miss, and that's all he had to do when they get the first down. It's that simple. In those situations, when you just need one guy to miss, having a good halfback can definitely make that happen, and that's what he did there. And Jacobs is just as good in between the tackles as he is in open space. He's good in either situation. He's just a good player. As of right now, you could make the argument that he's been the best running back in the AFC. He's been doing a great job, and I think that he probably will be a Pro Bowler this year, which is not easy to do as a rookie, although a little bit easier to do as a rookie running back. But either way, that's why I think he should get the first half of the season Rookie of the Year award for offensive players. But that's just my opinion. And again, there's several guys you could talk about. I did almost give it to Titus Howard. I love what he's doing in Houston, but I had to go with Josh Jacobs. He's just been playing so well. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thanks for watching.